Hey guys, Power Warriors, welcome to Subscriber Quest. This is where I take your questions from the comments and turn them into full video answers. Drop your questions below and you might just see yours featured in my next video. So today's question comes from Caro-Kann. I guess I pronounced that right. The question reads, I'm playing the rat defense after seeing your videos. I guess this is supposed to be in a lot nowadays, and that helps me in my ratings, but after some time I'm struggling in the middle game, that is creating an opening position. Okay, so the main question is, what's the best middle game plan in the rat defense? This isn't just a rat defense question. It's more of a general question where, a lot of people do struggle in the middle game when it comes to planning. But what I'm going to do in today's video is I'm going to play a random game on leeches, hopefully featuring the rat defense, and I guess you will learn from my thought process in the middle game. Let's walk the talk and answer the question. Okay, so this is a 5+5 rated rapid match. So I'm going to play some kind of the Filido. So pawn to d6, I want to transpose back to the rat defense if pawn to d4 is played. Yep, so this is the easiest way you can transpose the game back to the rat defense. Just play knight d7. Of course, this is called the Filido Hanam variation, and there are quite a number of things white can do. You can see they just played bishop c4. I talked about this move in my recent tutorial video on the rat defense, so I want you guys to pay much attention on this. Yeah, so after bishop c4, you have two options: to take on d4, oversimplifying the game, or go the right way to play pawn to c6. In the rat defense, c6 is very important because it kind of prevents queen d5 in the near future. I did mention about this plan. So, the opening stage is not a big deal, right? My subscriber or my viewer wants to know the middle game plan. So let's go c6. So if pawn takes, I'll just take back like that. a4, my opponent is playing very fast. I guess they know what they are doing. Sometimes what I like doing whenever I see pawn to a4 is I just play pawn to a5, stopping any pawn advancement, because this is like my opponent hasn't done a thing. So let's do that. So this is part of the opening plan. Knight c3. If I want, I can put my queen on c7. You can see that nothing is going on the center. There is tension. My opponent can't do a thing. So it's like all these are just developmental moves. So why can't I also develop my pieces? This is just the opening phase. If I want, I can play bishop e7. It's not much of a stretch. If I want, I can play pawn to, I guess pawn to h6 works, but nope. Due to pawn to e5, there's always that trap of sacrificing the last squad bishop. So you need to be aware of that. That's why bishop e7 works, or queen c7 in this position. So let's go queen c7 for now. If pawn takes, I'll just take like that. The queen on c7 is also indirectly protecting the f7 pawn, if you think about it. Castle short. If I want, I can play knight f6, knowing full and well that if knight g5 is played, I have knight b6. So it's all about the strategy that you come up with. But you will never go wrong by playing bishop e7 in this particular position before playing knight f6, just to stop knight g5. But let me play pawn to h6. By the way, the main reason why I played queen c7 was to avoid that common trap which I discussed in my last rat defense video. You need to watch that. There is a nasty trap where white sacrifices their light squad bishop on f7 and take on e5 to win your free queen. So that's why I played queen c7 after pawn to c6, just to avoid that trap. So this is part of the opening stage. How do I know this is the opening phase? Well, because, my pieces aren't fully developed. The opening stage, finishes after or once I complete my development, piece development. So let me go knight f6. Guess my opponent is going to play knight f5. That's their plan. So it is safe to say white is ahead in development, and they might call their position as the middle game position or something like that. But I'm still in the opening. Safe opening, I should say. I have knight b6. I'll take the knight if it comes on f5 and all that. So I'm planning for the middle game now. Once I develop my dark squad bishop, I'll probably get into the middle game. So let me show you how I reason in chess. I can see that my opponent is planning to put their knight on f5, which is very good. So if I move this dark squad bishop, they'll probably play knight f5, attacking my g7 pawn. But I have another counter attacking idea of putting my queen's knight on b6. Point is, if my opponent takes the g7 pawn, which will appear to be free, I'm going to attack two of their pieces, the bishop and the knight. So you can see this has nothing to do with the middle game planning. I'm just responding to my opponent's current threats. You understand what I'm talking about? So this has nothing to do with the middle game plan at the moment. I'm just responding to what I'm seeing currently on the board. So sometimes it's nothing to do with, middle game planning. It's all about responding to your opponent's current threats. So always take into consideration what your opponent might be thinking. So bishop e7. I expect to see knight f5. After which I'm going to play knight b6. So you see, now I'm attacking the light squad bishop. So if they take the pawn on g7, that will be some kind of a trap. Yep, you see exactly what I talked about. And now the knight and bishop are both under attack. This is how we create, plans. And so it is from ideas like these where middle game plans actually get born. I don't know if that makes sense. So sometimes it's not just about middle game plans. It's all about responding to what you are seeing. Just ensure that you get out of the opening stage very safe, and then start responding to your opponent's threats and plans. So the best way to create a middle game plan is by understanding what your opponent is trying to do, understanding their plans first. So let's take the last squad bishop. Next, I'm gonna take the knight. Again, oversimplification is key. In this case, I want to start exchanging pieces and keep pawns for the end game. So let's do this. The plan is to take with my queen or advance this pawn. I don't care much about time because there is like a 5 seconds increment. But anyway, no worries, I'll show you the best middle game plan in the rat defense after the video. I just want you to understand my thought process. So sometimes it's not just about middle game plans, and the best way to think of this is mastering the middle game principles. So sometimes it's not just about middle game planning, but understanding principles as well. Opening and middle game principles. Let's activate the rook that was not doing anything. Did I just allow bishop f4? Oh, I'm going to take this. Yep. So, yep. The queen is pinned. I mean, the bishop is pinned to the queen. Thought I hanged something here, but looks like my opponent is going to lose. So, you can see, queen takes. Now, game is well simplified. My opponent can resign. So I was just responding to what my opponent was trying to do, my opponent's plans, etc. I did not even have a perfect plan. You know, sometimes if you just follow the opening principles and the middle game principles very well, chess will begin playing itself, as Hans Niemann likes saying. Chess will play itself if you do the right thing. So word of the day, at times don't be desperate to come up with a plan in the middle game. The most important thing is understanding what your opponent is trying to do, like what I did during the game, understanding where they wanted to position their pieces. So it is from my opponent's plans where I started building my own middle game plan. I didn't have a specific one of my own. Unless your opponent is playing non-committal moves or being super passive, that's when you can start thinking of a game plan like the one I'm about to show you. So after e4, e5, knight f3, d6, d4, and knight d7, if black takes, you know what to do. Pawn takes, and after bishop c4, you go c6. But of course, the top played move is bishop c4, which my opponent played. After that, I recommended to go c6 just for simplicity's sake. See, if you just play a passive move like bishop e7, your opponent might hit you with de, and after de, there's always this little trap of involving their queen, and there's nothing you can do to stop chaos on the board. That's why playing pawn to c6 and queen c7 very early in the opening stage is very important. So what my opponent did was they played bishop c4 on move number 4, and then I responded with c6, so that should they take and I take back, they won't have queen d5. You see the difference? Anywho, that's part of the opening stage. Now, in the case where your opponent is playing non-committal moves, what best middle game plan should you follow? Try to combine openings. It is hard to tell, but one of my best rat defense middle game plans is where I relocate my queen's knight to the king's side, playing in the style of the Nimzowitsch defense. That's if my opponent is playing non-committal moves to force me chip into their plans. For example, in this case, if my opponent plays something like bishop e3, being passive, you see, I would first of all play bishop e7. Bishop e7 is always good. This time there's no queen d5 because of my c6 pawn. If you are confused, you can start with queen c7. I mean, I just want to make things simple for you guys so that your queen can also indirectly support your f7 pawn. If knight g5, by the way, you have knight h6 and knight b6, so you have more resources. Let's say white continues to be passive with moves like knight c3. Well, now you can play bishop e7. Let's say white plays h3, just giving an example. If you want, you can start your queen side pawn storm. This will be part of your middle game plan. So we normally start planning for the middle game right in the opening stage. So you start your middle game planning process when you are still in the opening stage. Get that right. So like now we are still in the opening stage. This is only the 7th move of the game. I'm thinking of my middle game plan of relocating my king's knight or my queen's knight to the king's side. I want to put it on g6. So first I can go knight gf6, just a developing move. And maybe if white castles short, that's when I can do the same if I want. I'll start executing my middle game plan from a distance. Nowadays, I love starting with h6, still stopping knight g5. I'm preparing for the middle game plan. Remember, and after something like a4, I'll then castle short or play knight f8. See what I'm doing. I'll see what if they play a5. Another non-committal move. That's when I go s6 if I want to stop that. Or knight g6. If you purchased my Nimzowitsch defense course, you know what I just achieved. So I'm still preparing for the middle game. Okay, s6, I'll go b5. I still have a tempo, bishop b3, and castle short. Now it is safe to say I'm in the middle game since my opening stage is done. So the next thing I'm thinking about is developing my light squad bishop, and most importantly, positioning one of my knights on f4. The same idea that we do in the Nimzowitsch defense. So this calls for studying things like positions and structures. The more structures you know, the better you get at middle games or with middle game planning. So start planning for your middle games in the opening stage. Lastly, this is a very important point. You can jot it down if you may. You see, as black, you have limited options. It's white's game, to be honest. There's a reason why we call black's opening moves as responses. You are simply responding to white's opening ideas, white's opening plan. You don't know what they have for you. So planning becomes easier when you have black pieces. It is the ability for you to adapt or to chip in the plans for white. Once you can do that, it'll be easier for you to counterattack or respond to their plans. If anything, just respond to your opponent's threats and focus on positioning your pieces on their most potential squares rather than, thinking about middlegame planning. By doing so, you will notice that chess will begin playing itself. A suitable plan will just pop up on the board from nowhere and you will just pick it up from there. So my best advice is study the middlegame principles and know where to position pieces. Also study many chess puzzles and middlegame structures for you to become a great responder. Unless your opponent is playing super passive moves or they are not doing anything on the board, that's when you can pick up on a plan you want to go with. For example, I just showed you one of my favorite plans in the Philido or in the rat defense, where I find a safer way to relocate my queen's knight to the king's side and transpose the game to some kind of the Nimzo wish. Anywho, I hope that answered your question. I can do better, but if you want to fully understand these things in detail, get my courses. I can't dish out everything in these short tutorials on YouTube. Anywho, now check this out, you guys. If you want to learn more about these kinds of tricks or similar opening ideas like the ones I just shared, you can watch this video that has popped up on the top left. Another video that I highly recommend you check out to skyrocket your rating is this one that has popped up on the top right. But if you love Gambit videos, you can check out the video that has popped up on the bottom left. And if you are a lover of chess traps like myself, feel free to click on the video that has popped up on the bottom right.